You look like a perfect fit. For a girl in need of a tourniquet. What can you save me? Come on and save me. If you could save me.
Hello, and welcome to Melee Stats Deep Dives. I'm your host, Gimme Dat Wheat. Back once again, the second time this week. You guys listened to me and Edwin wax rhapsodic about our Genesis experience, and I have another friend with me, a person who I saw at Genesis. And I think he's the perfect person to talk about this week's episode. Not only are we going to talk about Saving Mr. Lombardi, a tournament he ran, we're also going to talk about the Summit, Summit 9, a tournament that he is involved with. And who better to talk about this than the person currently in the Beyond the Summit office as of this recording, but my good friend Aiden Calvin. Aiden, what's going on? How you doing?
Hello, Wheat. I'm doing pretty good. Things are a little busy around here right now.
I can tell.
As you can imagine.
I appreciate you taking your time to talk with me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I always love coming on here. Always love talking about Melee with you.
You do. We love talking about Melee.
I became a fan of Wheat ever since I saw your head-to-head spreadsheet pop up on Twitter in, I think, 2016? Something like that?
2017. I think I was off Twitter in 2016.
When you had the Kanye West.
The Kanye West, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a logo. What a thing to brand myself with.
Yeah, it's kind of like how GR Smash has that James
Franco
pick he's known by.
Yeah, I feel like I am kind of like the GR Smash of the Melee Stats scene.
the hidden GR Smash.
The hidden GR. Everyone knows the real GR Smash of the Melee Stats scene is Save Us Entitled.
He's definitely the front facer right now with all the content he's been releasing.
Yeah, he's the marionette. I've got all the strings attached. But enough with that. So we got a lot to talk about today. I want to hear. So you obviously you have your hands in a lot of pots right now regarding all of this going on. So I kind of want to hear about like your personal, like the behind the scenes, the juicy gossip maybe, of these two tournaments. Because
Sure.
You've been very involved in both of these. What would you like to tell what your roles have been in both Saving Mr. Lombardi and Smash Summit 9?
Yeah, sure. So for Saving Mr. Lombardi, that is a tournament brought together by Endgame TV, UCI, and Top Shelf Esports. And though I own Endgame TV alongside a couple other people, and we reached out to like SoCal TOs last year to get the first Saving Mr. Lombardi together. It came together pretty well. Got a decent amount of attention for like a big regional event, and Kadoran actually, and I think December of last year, reached out and was like, hey, the UCI club would really like to do this again. Do we all want to come together and run it? And it ended up working out really well. There was this nice open weekend after Genesis. There was the opportunity to become the Summit qualifier, since there wasn't one scheduled like there usually is. And it all just kind of lined up really well, and I was like the head TO alongside Jerry from Top Shelf, and then we had a bunch of help from UCI and Griffin, Captain Face Roll as well. And yeah, it came together really nicely. As far as my role at Summit, I started working here in September of last year as the Smash product manager, and I help get together all of our like Smash Summits, main stage, and help out here and there with other projects that we work on as well, like CS Summit and Dota Summit and whatever kind of comes our way. Everybody here kind of has their hands in a little bit of everything, which is really nice. And obviously, Smash Summit 9 is coming up really soon. So as you can imagine, that's one of the things I'm really involved in, like planning and executing alongside a bunch of other people at the company that help make it happen.
For sure. I want to bring up one thing. You said Kradoran was involved in the in bringing Save Mr. Lombardi back.
Yeah. So I think he's the president of like the UCI Smash Club right now, I want to say.
Very
And
interesting.
so he was the one who came forward and was like, "Hey, we should do this. I can get the venue booked cheap through the club." And yeah, it worked out very, very nicely.
Very interesting that the person known for his prowess in the Falco matchup wanted this tournament specifically designed around having Falcos there to be back at his place, very close to his house.
Yes, a lot of ulterior motives, of course,
Yeah.
on his side. Ironically, to the tournament's name, and compared to the first iteration, we did not have a lot of Falco players.
Yeah, you guys
do
really
very
just
well
did.
at this one.
This was not a ton of people were flown out as opposed to last year, which is more of like a fun event. One of these funny things, we run into this all the time. If you like look back at it, everyone wants to do tournaments that are based around characters. It's like such a cool idea to have a character based tournament where like we're gonna fly out all the Falcon players. And people didn't believe me. Well, like when the script one happened, I said they're gonna do 2 of these, maybe 3, and then it's gonna be done forever. Because like, what do? Everyone does Falcon or Falco, whichever one you don't do, you do the other one, and then after that, it's like you're out. You make what Marth?
Yeah, there's been quite a few now. There's like a couple Fox themed tournaments here and there. No one's really gone the Marth route now that I think about it.
And then
it's
after
like,
that,
yeah,
it's just like, who wants to do a Sheik? Like we're gonna invite all the top Sheiks.
yeah, it's just not as exciting. People latch on like the 2 most exciting characters, and like
Yeah.
yeah, because like who doesn't want like Nun and Johnny at their tournament, right? Versus like this tournament has Swedish Delight in Captain Face Roll and Kirby Kaze. Like, well, actually, I'm excited about that.
That sounds incredible.
I'm personally excited about that, but I think the broader Melee fan base is just like not as interested.
It's like the script 6, and it's like, oh, grand finals, 2 Saint versus Michael.
Can you imagine getting to the Ice Climbers themed script?
Yeah, that'd be crazy, especially because Pound already banned wobbling. I wonder if like they would even have wobbling around. They like have to convince these players to come to this non-wobbling Ices tournament. Dude, that's like a high school prank when like the rich like popular kids befriend one of like the weird outcasts, and then they think they're all in it, and then they end up getting like carried or something, like the movie Carrie.
Yeah. It's definitely. I just like the idea of like it going all the way down the fucking chain somehow.
It's like we got
because you're totally right. It halts after like 2 max.
What do you think? There's Gibbers gonna fly out Curb and Glocken my Toyota.
I think that tournament's sick.
I think you could do like a catch-all low tiers, right? Like just like the script. It's Mario, like just so it's like Mario, Dr. Mario, Luigi, but whatever. Obviously, we're not here to draft further scripts. Maybe we're here to draft the script for Summit 9. But before we get to
no plans to rig anything, but
nothing's ever been rigged before in the history of Melee. Let's be clear. But let's talk about Save Most Lombardi 2. So we're going to talk about the format of Smash Summit later, an exclusive reveal on the Melee Stats Deep Dives podcast. But this one also has a really like interesting format. This is something that we, for the most part, I don't think I've seen something along this like along the lines of this. We saw like the individual things of Floto players, and obviously round robins have been for a while. But I think like this specific iteration, just like all of these things combined into one, I think is relatively new. What was going through your crazy little head when you came up with this?
There's a bunch of like components to this, I guess. I think the ideal form of the format that we did, which was a group of people floated into like a round robin stage, and then a normal bracket with everybody else. the top performers from the bracket making it into the round robin stage with the floated players, and then the round robin has a certain amount of people advance to a final closing bracket. The idea with this is that you can float people who have earned it through their previous results to a later stage of the tournament where they get to play a lot of high-level sets that you get to stream. It's good for viewers. A lot of the top players like it because they get high-level, serious like match practice, and it also makes it better for the lower-level players who have paid to attend your tournament, but they, for someone who is relatively new to the game or is just not that good of a player, them playing IBDW in round one is essentially an auto loss. And for them to be matched up against someone else is like a nice, more even matchup, I suppose. Like it's and I think most people who attend regionals and locals are looking more for that experience now rather than the novelty of playing against the top player.
Yeah, that's definitely like a major thing. Like when you go to your major, you just want to kind of get like 8-stocked by Mango, and then just say to your friends, like, hey, I played Mango.
Yeah, and that's like a cool thing about going to Genesis, especially if like you're not super involved in the competitive community. I would say it's like and I would say like a lot of the experience of going to a major in like say 2016, like that was a large portion of the appeal. I think it's shifting a lot now where it's like the people who still show up to tournaments and even majors are pretty much like the grinders, and it's not really about like no one the everybody followed Mewtwo King around in like 2015 and 2016 for his signature and stuff. And that I think that's changed a lot. It's just like not the same as it used to be. And the people who still go to tournaments now to compete aren't really interested in like hounding after top players as celebrities so much as like becoming better players themselves.
Yeah, I think as we move on, like we won't see a huge dip in how Melee looks like as a competitor. We might see dip in numbers, but I think whatever dip we'll see is probably mainly casual people. Yeah, I think you're right. I think like we might just be like trimming the fat of the player base for the next few years. So we might not see like a ton of majors hitting 1,000 people, but I think you're right. Like the people who are getting into Melee right now, definitely grinders, and they got all these ways to do it. You can Uncle Punch yourself to death and just be like Nezd out of your mind.
Yeah. I think like the products and resources available definitely encourage that sort of culture.
Did you see the Nez line at Genesis?
It was ridiculous,
That is
dude.
crazy.
He walked out like a hero. He came out the first day, and this a line of like 100 people cheered, and I was like, I literally thought in my head, I was like, man, like if only Cardano had marketed himself better.
Yeah,
like,
we're gonna get.
Because I think like Nez is really experienced and does a good job with what he does, and then he also has the marketing part of it down, right? Whereas like Cardano was always like, I think Cardano does an incredible job and has an incredible amount of knowledge, and I think the quality is like arguably the peak of like that kind of industry, so to speak. But he's very much satisfied with keeping his order queue like really small and just doing like a really low number of orders. Whereas like Nez became like pretty much like as good and especially at all the things that were really important and that people are looking for. And then he became a lot better at like marketing himself.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that he doesn't have time to waste with all this marketing. He's got to make that deodorant. Man's got
dude,
deodorant to make.
It's so funny that he just makes deodorant, dude. It's actually good. I've used it.
I think Ashcon has multiple. I don't even know if it comes in sticks. What does it come in?
It doesn't not come in sticks. It comes in like a little. Man, I don't even know what you call it. Like, do you know what Vaseline comes in like a little canister and like a little you like unscrew it and you put some on your finger. Anyway, the format of Mr. Lombardi, that was the intention.
The tournament format of Mr. Lombardi is just as fresh as you will be if you've used Cardano's deodorant. There we go.
Yeah,
How's that?
exactly. Perfect. We got our little like our
Segue.
TV spot in for
Yeah.
him. But those are like the reasons behind like kind of doing that format, and I think that we had done something like this previously at I think Emerald City 6, and we made some like alterations because there were some issues with the way we did it at that tournament, and I think this ended up being a lot better, and I think the tournament and the format were a success. Although like I can understand why some people would have disagreements why you would run this tournament for like a qualifier tournament.
Mhm.
But, I
Did
think
all
like
of these
the
disagreements come in the Melee Stats podcast Discord server?
Yes.
I saw a lot of angry nerds when I glanced over at what was going on in there.
Yeah, I totally understand. People have very different opinions on like what is like the best for competition, and like what is fair to like input as a format. But I just think I think I just take into account like other factors other than quote unquote competitive integrity, and I also think there's this like really there's just this satisfaction with double elimination with a lot of people that I think is really questionable, and I don't think it's the best format out there.
Yeah,
And I
you've
think there's
pushed
just
that continually. If you look at like EGTV, just the history of tournaments, you guys just have like continually different formats. Some of which are fine, some of which allow Edwin Budding to make top 64 through
yeah,
scamming
yes,
ladder matches, from
exactly.
dodging
And
certain Luigi players.
to be clear, I think the important thing is that when you test new things out and you do try new things, you need to accept the faults of those new things
Some
and
faults are Edwin
iterate.
making top 64.
Exactly. And as good as Edwin is, that tournament was a really strong example of why I do not think the redemption ladder format should be run at a one-day tournament. And similarly, like the version of the round robin and the floating we did at Lombardi was a iteration on how it was done at Emerald City, which had issues.
Yeah.
And we corrected for those problems, and we didn't have the problems that we had at Emerald City. So I think it's just if you're willing to, mistakes are always made in kind of a path of progress. And I think like as long as you take those mistakes into account and make sure you don't make them again, then you can, we all have the opportunity to like push tournament formats in a really positive new direction. And I think at Lombardi, we got a lot of interesting sets, a lot of interesting upsets, and a really cool bracket because of it.
This is amazing. I feel like I'm at a campaign rally for the next Melee president. This is good stuff. And while I do want to talk about, say, Mr. Lombardi, I want to get to there in 1 second. I just want to say, I believe Edwin's placing at the gang 2 should have an asterisk next to it. That's all.
That's fine. On the record, I'll just back you on this and say that's fine.
But I think it's really interesting to look at, say, Mr. Lombardi's place as a qualifier tournament. Because if you look at past qualifying tournaments, it's been only, it's been the Mango, it's been Big House, it's been GTX. It's been like a couple different big tournaments, Genesis, of course. But then you get the Mango, which is kind of like this weird part of it. And like if you're talking about competitive integrity of a qualifying tournament, I think the idea of doing round robin is really interesting, and I think it kind of mitigates some of the problem that comes with like seeding a double elimination tournament when you have people who are attending who have nothing to lose, right? Who like
exactly, and I think that's just part of like the acceptance of double elim as like the status quo. It's like the factor of seeding affecting the ability of someone to qualify is it's like why people don't really take that into account, I imagine, because it's just the way tournaments are. Whereas in this case, I think like the person who qualified, which was IBDW, there was, he unquestionably deserved it by winning this tournament, right? Because he beat almost everybody he played except for Fiction, and he lost in pools to Army. And that's, to me, and having beat everyone else, right? It's totally within like I don't know. It just feels like he deserves it outright. Like there's no question of whether or not he deserved it.
Yeah.
Whereas like say this was a double elim tournament, and if you're just seeded into one matchup that you're not very strong at, or one player that you're not very strong at, and they just happen to get the luckier like coin flip of the seeding,
Mm-hmm.
then it's like, oh, and they got to be the qualifier, even though that at Summit or like across a spread of players, they aren't actually the better player. And I think this is something that this format helped with.
Yeah, it's tough to kind of weigh like what it means to um, like what the format of round robin means in a lot of this, especially when you get to the round robin that we are gonna see at this tournament, and maybe whatever version of modified Swiss that someone has run in the past, and whatever version we're gonna find out that they're running this year. It's kind of weird because round robin usually was pools. Usually you weren't gonna play another top 20 player in the world. So it is kind of weird when you look at like it does mitigates all that thing about how brackets can really just kind of like straight up influence who's going to win, and like the
Mm-hmm.
seeding of a qualifier tournament matters so much. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like we saw Lucky beat Fiction, just straight up beat Fiction. Was the only person to beat Fiction this tournament, and we saw him in singles bracket, and he kind of bowed out pretty quickly. I think he ended up getting like top 8, but ended up getting 7th or something like that. So it is interesting to look
Yeah,
at.
he did really well, right? And I think like him beating Fiction is fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's like I think part of winning tournaments and part of part of earning it here was you can't take your foot off the gas. It's
Yeah,
like
for
just
sure.
because you beat one person doesn't mean that you just get the reward. You have to display that like strength and consistency across everyone that you play. And ultimately, like Cody did that the best,
Mm-hmm.
IBDW, and uh, in this case, like Lucky played really, really well at this tournament. He took Johnny to Game 5 last stock, I think, and that's who he was eliminated by finally. And he did really well in pools, 3-0 Fiction. But sometimes ultimately just other players outperformed him, and that's just part of like being the best of the best is like being able to be consistent across everything.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's like one of the cool things that consistency is exactly what I was thinking of. It's like you could have a really big win in bracket, and then your bracket could be who knows. Like Ginger got to top 8 of Genesis 6 with beating the 44th seed. I think that was his best win. So it's like brackets are so fickle in that way. And it's just like when you get to round robin, especially with top players, is that you just really have to consistently be better than the other people who are in your pool. And then after that, like you have to consistently perform in bracket. You can never just like really let up. And I think you're right about that. That being said, we're talking about Lucky. We talked about IBW. Let's talk about like the performances of the tournament itself. We talked a lot about the format because it is an interesting format. But let's kind of get
Mm-hmm.
into what we saw from this past weekend's tournament. Do you want to go over the floated round robins, or was there any cool things to happen in brackets to make it to the round robin that you want to go over first? It's up to you.
Yeah, I think there's really just a couple sets that stood out to me. I think the one that is top of mind is Blassie beat Spark
Yeah.
and just made it all the way through the like qualifier bracket, makes it to the round robin pool, and then beats a player who's like top 25 right now, which is really incredible because there's just South America hasn't had a lot of heavy hitters,
Mm-hmm.
and like over the years, like there's been like Eisengo Bay, who even at his best, like took Fiction to last game, last stock. It wasn't really like that crazy,
What?
and
Yeah.
and similarly, like there's been Zero, who during his time in Melee in like 2014 was really really strong, but then he faded away from the game.
Yeah.
So Blassie is like kind of South America's new hope right now, from Chile, which is probably long been the best South American Melee region, and it's really
Mm-hmm.
nice to see him spend a lot of time in the U.S. and cap off his trip here on a really high note. I thought that set was really cool.
For sure. Yeah, he's been someone who's just been like consistently getting better results at like a really small level. He's been going to some larger tournaments and just really hasn't been showing off as much as maybe other players, other like SoCal players. But this is just like really, this is the best turn performance I saw from him by far. He just really turned it on. So we see his run. He beat Android Zero, which to be honest might not be like impressive on paper. I think Android Zero is super good. I think he's scary to like any player right now. And I think that win is going to be more impressive in, by the end of the year or whatever. Not saying he's going to be top 100 or whatever, but that is a really solid player is going to continue to improve. And beating him the same week that like Android Zero beats NMW and Fizz, that's really good to me. And then like you said, his run just gets better from there. The Spark win, that's like a marquee win. Like any player wants that. And who else? He had the Bimbo win.
Yeah. Bimbo, unfortunately, not performing very well this tournament.
No.
I really hope to see him.
Yeah.
I hope to see him bounce back a little bit, but we'll see what goes down with it. It's some people just go through like down periods, and Fox Falco is something he's really proficient in, and Blasty beating him is like pretty impressive.
For sure. Bimbo is one of those players, for fans of mine who've read the Twitter things that I've posted about the top 100, Bimbo is someone who I always just was expecting to fall off at any given time. I was like, okay, you had your win, like you had your big win, and now I guess you're done. Like, because after we would see him have like one or two really good wins, he would then go to a tournament. He would, I don't know, get double eliminated by like Sheiks or something, like unranked Sheiks. So yeah, I think we could see him bounce back. He's that type of player who like I don't expect to just like really go very long without losing to someone on the come up. Kind of an odd thing to say about a player, but spreading wins around, nothing bad about that, right?
Yeah, I think it's just he's getting a little farmed at the moment, but it's perfectly within his ability to get back to where he was, and I mean, if he comes back and starts performing even better, those wins from everybody else look a lot better later in the year. So
for sure. And I unfortunately didn't get to see Sora make it to round robin pools. We actually didn't get to see any international players aside from Blassie, basically. I mean, I guess you could say Triff and Ice were, but all those players were invited to the pools, right?
Oh, you mean like making it all the way through? Yeah. So unfortunately, no one qualified through the actual the like full bracket besides Blassie. Sora was a Blassie victim himself.
Mm-hmm.
I think if he cleaned up that set, he definitely was capable of winning it. I think like Sora is just someone who needs to work on his consistency a bit because his peak level of play is like really, really high.
Yeah.
And I think that just kind of happens from being in a really ostracized region. Is it's just hard to practice, man, and it's hard to like develop your mentality, and it's just very difficult all around. And I'm sure if he comes back and like stays for longer periods of time, he'll be where he needs to be.
In your mind, is ostracized spelled with AUS? Is that a pun?
Ostracized.
Very intentional, of course.
Of course. I definitely knew that before you pointed it out.
Like he is a player who I think is pretty much consistently for the past. It's really hard to say actually for how long he's been playing at this level, but I think he's been playing top 100 level. I am of the mindset that like everyone after 80, like it just comes to brackets. It just comes to having this weird, maybe you had a player in your bracket path at the one major that you went to that was really good for you. Like when it comes down to the players who are that far down on the top 100, like so many people could occupy that range of like 80 to 100. And I believe Sora's been at that level for a little bit right now. It's just like super hard for a player from his region, from anywhere in Australia or New Zealand for that matter, to really just get over that hump, to be a top 100 player. If you're not American, I think it's just like you need to prove so much.
You need to capitalize on your minimal opportunities like really, really well. I think like it's like you said, anybody can like be in that range. It really just comes down to the like your matchup proficiencies and the likelihood of you getting those strong
Yeah.
matchups, and then like your mentality on a given day. And the people who like really make it to the top, who make it to like top 50, are just the players who can handle the spread of pretty much anything that comes their way, and consistently handle it well. Whereas like everybody below that is like, oh, am I a Marth player who's like very good, but like I went to 2 nationals this year where I really only had to play Fox and Falco, so my results look pretty amazing. Whereas like, you might be, I don't know, you might say Triff like never traveled, right? And he just played solo battle at every tournament and he just kept losing to Puff. Like that's gonna be a weird reflection of results, and that's like more matchup dependent rather than like a full representation of skill. And I'm sure you could find a better example of that with lower ranked players, but
Yeah.
that's what comes to mind.
I think the lower ranked you go, the more it's like really easy to be, not easy, I shouldn't say that. But how like being a matchup like person, like someone who has a really proficient in just a couple matchups. I think the lower down you go, it's just like easier to be ranked that way. Um, let's get into some of these round robin results before we get into the main bracket, and then we'll start talking about what to expect from some summit voting or summit format. We'll talk about that. My first question is West Balls good right now?
Yeah, this is a fun question, right? Because I think,
very hard
interestingly
question.
enough, from his own mouth, he's taking the uh, he's taking melee like pretty seriously,
I would say
and
that.
he is practicing a lot, it would seem. And based on his results lately, like he is capable of beating pretty much anybody in SoCal on a given day.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of like maintaining consistency with this, which is something he's struggled with, like pretty much always, but especially the past 2 years. Whereas like, before that, in like the 2015 sort of era, he's a player like pushing for, or was top 10.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, yeah. Even then, the thing with him is he would go to a tournament, he would still lose, get upset a lot. The difference was that if he lost to MT in bracket, he would beat several top 30, 20 players on the way to getting like fourth, right?
Yeah, he would make it all the way back. And I think that's the difference between West then and West now, is like when West loses early, he often just falls to like the next couple people he plays in bracket.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, I think like West, like if West had won this tournament, I wouldn't have been incredibly surprised.
No, and
Like,
I've been pretty negative about West recently. I just like it is annoying to hear his fans get happy whenever he has a good result because very frequently those good results are the only ones that they will ever point out, right?
yeah, yeah.
But credit where credit is due. In 2020 alone, it's really just been looking a lot more solid from him. We've been seeing him at a lot more locals. He's been getting a lot of good results at locals. He's been beating. He got a fiction win at a local, even though he's still think he's pretty negative on fiction. Got a face roll wins. Like it's been doing really well at these local performances, and even here he got some solid wins. Like a win on Ginger. It's nothing to scoff at. But also it comes in the same pool that he ended up losing to Prince Abu and Ice, who's like pretty notoriously shaky in the Falco matchup.
Now that I think about it, that is an insane upset. Because how many times has Ice lost West over the years? Like, that is actually so mind blowing to me that Ice actually won.
And we thought we killed Ice. We when the bracket was when the pools were made, we thought Ice was done. Like,
Yeah, I was so sad to see how the seeding translated into the pools because it was like, oh man, like Ice just has 2 Falcos. Like,
two
and
Falcons
he
and a
just,
Falcon, none of which he's really done well against.
yeah, just brutal, right? And unfortunately, he did not make it out of pools. It was like quite close. But him beating West is like,
Yeah, well,
is a pretty big deal because I think he's only beat West 1 time prior. It has happened, but the record is really
it's
bad.
not pretty. Well, the funny thing is, like, it wasn't. I mean, he did lose to Ginger, But like West Balls, he got a win on that, and then managed to lose to Prince Abu. Like if he beat Prince Abu, he would have been in. But
Yeah, it was super close between him and Abu as well.
yeah, that's a shame. Abu with he's got a win on Icier. He got a win on West Balls. Like I don't really know what his plan is for competing. Like I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I could actually give a little insight into that because
Oh, perfect.
I think Abu is someone I've always really enjoyed talking to, just at tournaments in passing. Like whenever we see each other at a tournament, it feels like we always take like 10 minutes just to catch up and see what's going on. And we did the same at this tournament as we usually do. And he mentioned that he's just trying to go to like more events. He's looking for like a lot of like 1 day regionals to travel to. He said that like this is his main like hobby. It's different for him than a lot of other top players where he's at the tail end of medical school right now, about to start his residency, I think.
Yeah, I
And
was gonna say. I feel like that was what was going on in his life, which is why it's kind of weird to see him at more. I guess is this like the party, the big going
kind
out
of
party
I,
before he ends up.
from talking to a lot of like med and like pre-med friends, it sounds like a lot of the school are pretty much in the first couple years, and once you get to that last section of it, it actually becomes pretty easy going.
Interesting.
And as a result, like he actually has time to play again because he wasn't going to a lot of stuff for a while, and he's just like he said, like, yeah, I'm just looking to travel to like a lot of 1 day and maybe 2 day tournaments because like 3 days is just like way too hard with my schedule, and like but I love like playing still. And yeah, so it sounds like he's gonna keep attending stuff like even after he becomes a doctor. And just it's like his thing that he does in his free time, like this is his thing, and it's not about becoming, it doesn't sound like it's about becoming the best. It's not about making it a career for him. It's about just playing the game, and that's pretty cool to hear
That's
because
really good.
I was worried he might step away for like a forever essentially, and
Yeah.
it's really cool to see him just turn up in this, and like he performed really really well.
That's so funny. Imagine him like icing you in the set, like goes game 3, and then he takes a phone call because he like has to talk to a patient.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you're just like,
Sorry, got to take this.
yeah, and you're just like all your mental energy is just like you just won game 2, like what?
Yeah, yeah. I wonder, Doctor Abu, dude. That's gonna be him.
That'd be great. What if he changed his tag? That'd be great.
I would no longer a prince, a doctor.
Or Doctor Abu MD, or sorry, Prince Abu MD, or whatever. Maybe it's not MD. Whatever D he wants to be.
DAMD. That would be such an awful tag.
That'd be very bad. Let's talk about, what do you want to talk about? Who else? We have one Ice Climbers player to talk about at some point. I don't know if we want to save him.
Yeah, we could just jump into that.
You ready for
because
it?
it kind of coincides with my other point too. Is that so Army did pretty incredible at this tournament.
Did
He
very
beat
well.
IBDW in pools. He beat Triff twice.
Yeah, that was hard to watch.
Yeah, it was pretty sad, and eventually fell to Professor Pro, which was also very cool because Army is, I think, an amazing player, especially when Wobbly is not banned. And to see Professor Pro's Ices experience hold up in like the current year was really nice to see because I think we just have not seen him against a high level Ices in a while.
Yeah.
Except like Chudat really sparsely over the past couple years. And to see him play a different Ice Climbers and still beat him really solidly was like really cool. But at the same time, like Army's run was incredible.
Yeah. I mean, they're both players who I think one of the more impressive runs of the tournament, of course. I think Profs is the more important run if you're just talking about what this tournament means. Like this is a player who we haven't seen in America quite a bit. We, of course, Genesis, and he's this player who was able to get really good wins while he was still playing, just mostly in Europe. And we was like, is this the return of Prof? Like everyone, is kind of thinking that, just looking at his resume from last year. and I wasn't really too sure how that translates to like a full year in 2020 if we see him more.
All right, hear me out. Wait, hear me out.
I'm already
This is
wrong.
I'm jazzed about Prof already.
You're always
I'm a
jazzed on
huge
Prof.
fan. I'm a huge Prof fan. I was very disappointed when I saw where people ranked him last year.
Where was he on Aiden rank? Tell me.
On Aiden rank, he's like number 3, dude, right after Spud and Captain Spuckers.
Sounds fair.
But in actuality, I think Prof never really dipped that far below like the top 40 level, but a lot of people were discounting him and putting him in like the 50 and 60 range.
Yeah,
in
2018, yeah.
I think what a lot of people failed to see were his results at the end of 2018 when he went to Bridgetown Hyper Blitz and all the parking lot tournaments before Dump Park, because he did extremely well at all of those. Performed very consistently, beat a ton of relevant top players at the time, and then I just feel like nobody looked at those results when they ranked him.
Yeah,
because like he was ranked like 58 or something, and it was like, 50. Man, this guy has winning records on like this guy has winning records on Bladewise, Nunn, Moki, and has like an almost even record with Spud, like and it just like didn't make any sense. And then we went through like basically most of last year with honestly he had a pretty like weak start where like he lost to like Nikki a couple times mid last year.
Yeah.
He just like wasn't performing that well like overall in Europe. And so when he finally got to come to the US on this trip, I've had faith for a while, especially since he kicked it into gear in the latter half of last year, that he could perform really, really well still. Especially because like the skill level in Europe has been increasing with a lot of like new players that aren't, Leffen.
Yeah, and the skill level in Europe's really interesting because I think if you just look at like the raw ranks of the people in Europe right now, it's lower than it has been in the past. But the cool thing is that like all the people who we're seeing now are all new players. Like Europe just by themselves had 4 new players off the top of my head, if I remember. Sechi, Nikki, Kristen, and Frenzy, which is like
it's like it's the new era over there right now.
Yeah,
like I mean, it's the new era everywhere. To be fair,
we're in a beautiful era where the grinders the grinders rule. The grinders rule over everyone, and then sometimes an old guy will come and then it'll just beat everyone. We never truly know who's going to be better, the grinder or the old man, and I think that's a wonderful thing to see.
It's a really exciting time in Melee in general, and so I think just Prof doing very well. It's not expected, but for me, I knew it was in the cards. Like I definitely knew it was possible for him to perform this well.
Yeah.
And honestly, definitely within his means to beat Johnny the second time too. Johnny just played very well. So I was so happy to see him perform like this at this event.
I mean, this is amazing. Like the course of these past 2 weeks, I really think that both Ice and Prof have really proven themselves to be competitors as strong as they were at any point. Both of them, like you mentioned, Prof. Yeah, he was ranked 56 in 2018, biggest drop that he's had in his career, and obviously after 2019, he proved that was not really kind of true. Like he's been consistently good. Ice, another person who's ranked 51st this year, and this year already, I believe in 2020, he's proven that he is a top player. He's got wins on Lucky. He beat Westballs here. He had a really, he had that really like 3-0 that good win on Prof at Genesis. It's like I think these 2 players are playing just as well as they ever have. Maybe not like the highest that they've ever been, of course, because both of them have had such insane peaks. Like it's so hard to say that Ice is as good as he's ever been. But I really don't think
it's more that the broader level of play is like has risen everywhere. So it's not that I think there's a strong argument for them actually playing like the best they ever have at the moment.
Sure. I don't want to get into this. This is like some Westballs hasn't gotten worse type thing.
Yeah, it's just like everybody is very good.
We use relative skill to talk about people. We don't use absolute skill, right?
Yeah.
It's not like I'm saying Oh, actually, actually, Hugs is playing the best he's ever has. It's like,
Yeah, okay, I see your point. So, like, in this case, I think Prof might be playing the best he ever has at the moment. I think
really.
it,
I mean, this Johnny win,
maybe.
like, and the Army win. Army was just like, Prof proved that he is still an Icy Slayer, no matter what anyone thinks, right? Like, I think there was
Yeah,
some doubts. I know some people in the Melee Stats podcast Discord server were definitely like wondering if he still had it, just because we haven't seen it so long. And yeah, he showed up. He proved
still
just as
amazing.
good as he ever is.
I think Ice, probably not the best he's ever played.
No,
Definitely nowhere near his peak. I think he can get back if he sharpens some stuff. Maybe we'll see top 15 Ice again,
if like foxes only existed in this world, I think that Ice would be top 15 again.
Yeah. Master of the Fox Tunnel.
Yeah, we'll have to wait until more people pick up Fox. He'll get a plup win at some point, right? If he goes to enough, isn't that how this works?
Yeah, exactly. He'll Plup. We can talk about that some other time.
America's the land
But
of opportunities because if you go to enough, you will score a plup win.
yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, I mean, there's some other stuff to talk about here, but I think that we hit the big points. I think everything basically, like all the really interesting stuff we hit on. The only thing I can think is maybe a little bit on our performance from Spark. Top 25 player. Really, we didn't see a great performance from him, but he's got the summit coming up. Let's
Yeah, he made it.
he made it in. So let's kind of shift our focus over to that. So we have Summit 9 coming up. You guys are actually running 18 players this year for the first time. This is coming straight
Yeah,
off of
dude.
Summit 8 was you had 18 players there but only 16 players at bracket, right? Cuz you guys invited the next two in voting. Was that how it happened?
Yeah.
This
So
was
we would. I think
pre-Aiden,
the
right?
last two people. Yeah, like this is. So to be clear, I have not on any of our summits before the last Smash Ultimate Summit. So I was involved with Smash Ultimate Summit 2, but prior to that, like I haven't worked on Smash Summit 8, etc. So this is the first one, and this is the first summit where I have been involved in the process from like beginning to end. Um, and yeah, it's so we decided like, hey, I think it's within reason that we can incorporate a format that has 18 people play, because we're already flying at the last two people that get eliminated. So why not sort of have two extra people just participate and compete and be involved in the broadcast? Because I think that would just be more fun for everyone, right? It's a better experience for players. It's a better experience for everybody who watches. I think it's just like a more enjoyable event that way. And then the format that we're doing, I think just makes it pretty easy, even if it isn't like the prettiest format, because like just 18 is like not as perfect of a number as like 16 is for competition.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's like in turn, it's giving us a bunch of good things that I think everybody will enjoy.
Well, we're all ready to hear this format if you're ready to give it.
Sure. So it's in summits past a free format that pools, Swiss pools, and then people advance to bracket, and their seeding is based off their performance in those Swiss pools. Similarly, here we're also doing Swiss pools. We have 2 pools of 9, and we're doing at least 5 rounds of Swiss, and then based off of the performance in those pools, the very last person in each one will be eliminated, and they won't advance to the bracket on the last day. And then the remaining players will be seeded into winners and losers of the bracket on Sunday. And yeah, that's it.
9 play. What? How the heck does a 9-player pool work? Do we?
Sure. So each round there's a bye. So there will be a couple. There will be a couple players who play 6 sets, or a couple players who play 6 sets, and then most of the pool will play 5 sets, with a couple people receiving buys that contribute to like their standing in like a accounted for way.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think this is probably something that I just need to see in front of me to really grasp what this means. But I don't know. You haven't proven me wrong yet.
Yeah, so it's funny that you're asking about this today, because today we were just like a bunch of thorough testing of like all ways that like the results could end up, to account for like anything that we had missed when we initially discussed the format, when we announced it. And as expected, like yeah, the buys are just like a little weird because they're not like common in this sort of format. Usually you would like an even number of people, but ultimately like they don't sway the results in any significant way.
Yeah.
The people, because the main factor here is one person gets eliminated, and the main thing to look out for is that whether or not those buys heavily influence who gets eliminated or not, and they just don't, because of the ways the buys are distributed to players. Yeah, and that was pretty much like the only thing to like look out for. And since the elimination process is handled like really easily and really like what I'd call fairly, then there wasn't really any issue with it. And so the pools are just be like a little different than the usual tournament, but similar to how a double elimination bracket with 18 people looks really weird. This will also have its like little diversion from normality, if you will.
For sure. I mean, Summit's always been very inventive and just like really experimental in the formats that they've put across, and I think that that's really
Yeah.
cool. What more
So
can we ask for like more sets from top players?
Exactly, and I think that's the thing that you basically need to account for, is that we're of like a very unique tournament that has the opportunity to do something very different, than the average event, and we also have like just different goals for what we're trying to accomplish. Right? It's not just about like the average tournament. You might run double elimination, because that's just what's within reason with the amount of setups you can get, the amount of time you have. But at Summit, we have this like unique thing where we have 4 days straight of of an venue that we own, that where we can host like whatever within this space, right? And doing a double elim bracket with everybody, which is over within a day. And so what can we do to like give more high level matches to everybody that tunes in? What's part of like the the classic Summit experience that everybody really enjoys, and adding more competitors and shifting around a format that historically is always a little weird anyway, seemed totally within reason.
Yeah. I guess like my next question is, on a scale of like venue being cold to ultimate seeding, how mad will Leffen be on Twitter about the format?
About the format, I don't
Yeah.
think I
He's
do
had some
not.
stuff to say about past formats. Remember, he was talking about
He
how it
has.
doesn't matter if you lose or whatever.
So, I think, I don't. This is my read. I think any complaints that Levin has will probably be minimal, and I think that's because we've taken into account a lot of the things that people complain about, and one of the big things is that matches don't matter. And here, all the results of the pools affect seeding, and
And you can just lose.
not only seeding. You can, of course, if you're dead last, you're
You're
eliminated,
just out.
and if you're one of the middle, like if you're one of the 5 through 8 seeds, you start in losers bracket. So that just makes your journey later on much more difficult. So there's always a consequence to each round that you play in. Whether it be starting in winners, starting in losers, or being eliminated from the tournament entirely. And that's just that's like a change we tried to make from like past formats where every match wasn't necessarily consequential, or in some of the ways we've tried to combat this in the past, I don't think were necessarily that effective. Like at Ultimate Summit, we tried something new where we put money on each match in the pools so that there was an incentive to always try because you received a reward. But I do think a weakness of that is the amount of money rewarded for each set is just proportionally pretty small to the large payouts that you get for performing well in the tournament, overall. And some matches in pools at Ultimate Summit, you could argue didn't matter that much because like ESAM beat MKLeo then everybody started in winners, and then ESAM lost in winners round 1 of the actual bracket. So it's and I don't think that's like a complete failure by any means. I think that's a reasonable format to say the least. But like, what small tweak could we make to make sure that the experience is just slightly better for both the competitors and the viewers? And I think doing something like this, where it distributes across winners, losers, and someone is eliminated, does that really well.
I guess, it sounds like a good, really like cool format. The only thing I'm worried about is HBox is gonna like lose in pools. He's gonna get 6th seed and then have to play left in like round 1, and then you're gonna hear some complaints.
Oh boy, okay. So HBox losing in pools, I really, if he only loses once, then nothing like that would happen. If HBox loses multiple times in pools and starts in losers, and then Leffen also loses multiple times in pools and starts in losers, I don't know if anybody gets to complain then, because it's like, well, you guys shouldn't have lost twice. Like,
I mean, they could still play winners round 1, but whatever.
Yeah. I think in the format, if they lose twice, they're guaranteed to start in losers almost. I think they. Well, I'd have to someone would have to put how the players that they lose to do in their other 2 or 3 matches.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you lose twice, I think that's the thing with round robin and Swiss and things like that too, is if you lose twice and then complain about how you fall into a bracket because of a tie break, for instance, it's yeah, but in a normal bracket you'd already be out.
Yeah. So. I think you're fine, and I'm good friends with Slime. I like to talk with him every now and then, and he told me that you were obviously you're a great tournament organizer. You work really well with these, in your past experiences with Summit. But he told me he saw you guys on vacation, you and Leffen. He just decided to invite you along to be on the Summit, just so Leffen couldn't really rag you guys as hard. Is that true?
Oh my God.
What's the truth behind this?
That's pretty funny, because the idea that would.
They just saw some guy in all these photos with him, and
yeah, it's what if we just hired this dude and then we won't get criticized as much?
However, they couldn't fly out Yabasta or whatever.
the trip that we took was after I got hired, so I assure you that is not the reason.
The timeline's all messed up.
And I am sure Leffen is perfectly happy to roast me if it comes up. So
yeah, he is an indiscriminate roaster.
Yes.
He is the indiscriminate roaster of the Melee scene, and
I'm sure he'll light me up if something does not seem right. And hey, that's what made his praise at main stage all the sweeter. It's oh man, not even Leffen complained about the tournament. This really did run well.
Not even Leffen. Yeah, I had a good time. So that means just as much.
Yeah, exactly. I do look for Wheat approval. Wheat sign off. It's very important to me.
It should be important to everyone.
It's important to Slime too, so I can guarantee you that.
If only I was friends with Leffen. That's the missing link. Yeah, so it's a really interesting format. I'm really excited to see how that works out. I mean, like I said, I guess I keep saying you guys, and obviously this is the first Melee Summit that you've been a part of, hands-on. But Summit continually has really just been impressive in their various ways of executing this bracket. I think it's really cool to see, if you see stagnation, then it's not really, there's no innovation. And I think that just seeing it constantly change and in terms of in seeking a better bracket, it was really interesting. I really like that.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I mean, the team's always done a really good job with whatever they pursued, and that was something that gave me a lot of confidence when I was joining the team. I'm really happy to be a part of it all, and hopefully contribute as well as everyone has done previously without me on the team. I hope I get to get to carry my weight and like do some really great things here. And I'm really confident this first Smash Summit's going to go well. I think we have like a really good lineup of like content and like little bits for everybody. The player lineup so far looks really good. The format, I think, just ultimately the format gives everybody more matches to play and watch this time around. Like significantly more than past summits. So I'm hoping people will enjoy that, especially as a viewer. I just think this, and honestly, I think this theme that we have is super solid. I think it's one of the best ones we've ever had.
I think it's really funny. I think one of the things I like most about it is just how there were a few dissenting voices that were very loud and just not happy about it.
About the theme,
Yeah,
I didn't even see.
maybe
I haven't seen any
maybe
negative
I'm making it
feedback.
up. I definitely saw people who were just like, really, like it took everyone by surprise. I think that's like really definitely cool. Um, yeah, we're coming up close to the end of the episode. We've had a good conversation talking about a lot of stuff, but let's talk about the players who are invited to this. We are not invited. I guess we should talk about the people who've made it. Where by the time this episode comes out, we will be at a scant few hours away from knowing the final two invites. But
Yeah,
right now we're kind of we're in the thick of it. So we already saw Spark, Ryobeat, and Magi. What are your thoughts on those players so far? All of them. This is the first summit that they've been to. So we have all new
yeah,
people.
it's crazy new talent at this one. I think it really is emblematic of like the era of Melee we're in, which is really cool.
Yeah,
We kind of have like the old guard that have like sustained their spots at the top, plus a bunch of the new blood that have become very good in like recent years. Spark, really excited to see him play. Just an incredible player. Now number one in NorCal over, you know, PPU and Shroom, which is the first time in many years where it hasn't been PPU, Shroomed, or SFAT on top of that PR.
yeah. That NorCal
Um,
trio just like they held it down for so long. Like
yeah, ridiculous streak, right? So he's finally broken into that top echelon of play, and I think he has the potential to do really well. Ryobeat hot off the win at Genesis over Wizzy. And I don't think anyone expected that. But the
no,
fact that
no.
yeah, it happened. All that Captain Smucker's practice.
The JoJo practice too.
Oh, the JoJo practice. Excuse
No, it was
me.
both. It was meant to be.
Yeah, it's just perfect, right? And you could tell Nico like when he won, like he just cared so much. So
Mm,
I thought that was really cool. And then Magi, obviously the breaking a lot of like barriers for everybody. Like to be the first woman on the top 100 and then in the top 50, and now a competitor at like arguably the most prestigious like invitational event. I think really incredible.
arguably,
Her Falco is her Falco's insane.
for
I
sure.
really like watching her play, and I think this is a really nice opportunity for her to just like get a lot of like attention on like how good she is, and I think just like the three people we have so far, like all have like a unique spread of characters and all like have been grinders for so long. I just really feel like the three people like all really deserve it,
Yeah,
and I'm really happy that they're the people who have made it in so far.
it's all just been a big ploy so Magic can get her followers back.
Oh yeah, because she had like her first Twitter account like
Yeah, I think it was one of those things where she was like 13 when she made it originally, so they had to.
oh yeah, and they get you like that. It's
Yeah.
better than PayPal when they find out you and then they just lock your account. It's ridiculous.
Oh, is that why I didn't get paid for "Don't Park on the Grass" seating?
Flame! I did pay you.
You pay.
Just very late.
We'll get into this. We'll get into it at a different time, a different podcast. Yeah, no, like it's so sick. So we have Nico. Nico's the first time top 100 player. Magi. This is her second time on the list. She's rose from just making the top 100 at like 97 to now top 50. Spark, first time being a top 25 player. It's like we're seeing these new eras for each of these players. Like, this is a new level of competition that we've seen from each of them in the past few months. Like, it is really incredible to see just the new talent that has already been invited. Let's go
Yeah.
to, we got 2 in, 2 out. We got 4 people left. So currently, as of the time of recording, we have Bobby Big Balls and Priscent. They're the top 2. And Moki and Chillin are kind of leading really close. What are your thoughts? Who are your predictions? And who do you want to see?
Yeah, I mean, I really, I've been a big Priston fan, for quite a while.
Oh, I know.
I brought him out to his first couple American tournaments. He's a really nice and like cool dude. Moki is also someone I've spent a lot of time with. And I think he's now top 20. He's just like a really, really good young player. They both have like just really cool foxes. Bobby's always releasing content and doing crazy stuff. I don't know how he'd fare against like a broader, top level crowd. I think that's like his weakness is like ultimately, like I think if Bobby got in, like is not gonna do very well. I as much as like I think Priscent and like Moki have the like Priscent being more similar in that he's like lower ranked has the opportunity to like actually upset people because I think Priscent is really underrated. And then Moki we know is like incredible. And then last but not least,
you've been kind of dancing around this subject.
Chillin' dude,
829.
He qualified through his top 64 spot at Big House, and my man, look, I gotta be honest, right? I have no as a employee here. I have no ultimately have no real preference and have no like sway in like how this turns out. I do think Chillin, because I haven't really talked about him about this. I think if he cares about competing again and he's taking it really seriously, then by all means would be happy to see him.
Yeah.
And I think the only thing is like I think if just Chillin isn't taking it seriously, it will be sad to see him just like kind of show up and lose. And I don't want to see that. But if he gets in and he like trains and practices, Chillin was a really good top player for like ages, right? And
for a long time, for sure.
And it's like Chillin has the potential to like always kind of return to like what he was if he like I think focuses on it enough. So it's like all these players have the capacity to be successful. I'm a little biased in that I'm like pretty good friends with like 2 of them in particular, and like Chillin is also a good friend as well. It's just like Moki and Priscent I think I've just spent more time with. And then Bobby's like this this like content god that people really like. So it's a really interesting voting process, and we'll see who gets in, and ultimately I think the people remaining like will bring their own good qualities to the event, and we'll just see how it shapes up. I think like regardless of like who makes it in, the lineup that we have at the moment that's confirmed is really, really strong and like just really entertaining in like the sets we'll get, and whoever joins them, I'm sure will bring their own contribution to that.
Thank you for your answer, Senator Calvin.
Yeah, sorry, it sounds very neutral and political. No, I feel like I'm like in a bit right now or something.
That's good. It's good stuff.
Maybe that's a show that. Sorry, this might be a bad show to reference now.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with all the points that you made about your players. Chillin, this is like such an interesting time to decide that you want to be back in Melee. Is when you can,
yeah,
when you can get it's like one of the coolest tournaments.
Like I said, I just hope that if he gets in, he takes it because I think he still has the ability to perform really well. And I think a serious competitor, chilling dude is someone to like watch out for. And I think like he's a beloved community member that a lot of people would like to see play at that level again.
I just wish he said this before Summit. Anytime before Summit, I wish I heard this whole thing about him practicing, right?
Yeah, what are you gonna do? That's how it is.
What are
And
you gonna do? Did you know you can make top 64 at the Big House, losing to Chango and Lad, and your best win being J Knot? Did you know that's possible? By the way,
is that I actually didn't make it. That's really funny. I mean I watched Chango beat him.
Nice. Chillin' is, it's like watching the Kardashians, right?
Yeah.
It is a skill upon itself to just be relevant for so long, and he become a solid commentator. He's one of the most reliable men behind the mic, as I call them. Um,
I'm sure he'll get on the couch if
I'm
he makes it
sure
in.
he will spend some time on the couch. Yeah, he's just like he's a really good community member, and like you said, he is like consistently been like top player. Even if we saw him at the top 10 range at some point, and then maybe saw him at the top 50 range, but for years been playing at a really high level, and I just feel like the biggest nerd in the world because I don't want him to get in really. Like out of the players remaining, I want Prisson and Moki so much, and I feel like that is the answer that if I give to someone, I will get shoved into a locker. Like I feel like Bobby and Chillin are the true like Chad picks.
Oh yeah, like the cool kids. Prisson is definitely like more niche in terms of like the
Prisson's
fandom and like who knows about him. But it's
yeah.
like like I've always been a supporter of international melee, and it's hard to not like cheer a little inside for him. Even if I don't use any I don't get to use any votes, I participate in this process. But Tommy's my boy, dude.
Yeah, I mean, he is the person. I also have not. I just have not voted. I don't know. This is very unlike me in the real world. I vote early and often, and I'm not. I did not get any free votes. I didn't give any votes. I didn't make any purchases. So maybe I should not be, you know, giving my huge recommendations. But I think Prisson in Summit would be so cool. Like he is a player who I didn't really think was going to run, to be honest, and I didn't think was going to do this well. So to see him get so close, like this is something that I would have said if you just asked me randomly, like who I think would be super cool to be in Summit. And the fact that he is so close, that's amazing to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Moki,
I
I've
would
been a
I
big
would not
fan
have
of.
expected I would not have expected him to get this far.
No, it's so crazy that I like. We especially since we don't see Europeans really get voted in a lot. We had Triff and we had Ice, and I think other than that, we had no Europeans at Summit who didn't make it through just like straight up invitations, of course.
Yeah, Europe's never really rallied like that hard.
Yeah,
Like
it's there's a
it's hard for them. Like the shipping, I know the shipping for products is like a little expensive, and I think they're just like they're more unified by country rather than being like a continent
yeah.
often. And like for Spud, it was like Australia and New Zealand are gonna get Spud in, and there was no question about it, right? Whereas like I think in Europe's case, I think someone from France really isn't that motivated to help get Prisson in, and it's more like Norway and Sweden and like the Danish guys, like they're all much more like involved. And then I think from Twitter, I can only assume that Prisson has some sort of larger fan base. I did not realize because I'm seeing him being tweeted about a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think he just kind of represents like the new era of Fox players. Like he's a young Fox, and I think young foxes like young foxes, right?
Yeah,
Maybe that's
it's
the
a
best thing.
hope to a new generation.
He represents something larger than himself. He
Exactly.
represents the hope. Um, yeah, I mean, like, so when we talk about who we want, what is your prediction? We're what 13 So 13 some hours away as it stands right now. Time of
Oh,
recording.
of who gets in?
Yeah, what are your predictions? 2 make it in, 2 don't.
It's difficult to say who gets that second spot. I mean, Bobby's lead is like very large. It's hard to imagine two people passing that up. We will see. And then as for the next spot, man, I gotta be honest, I have no clue. It's so close, and anyone who drops like a big enough bomb is gonna be it. I I really have no idea.
I could pick the fatalist mindset and I could say it's Bobby and Chillin, but I think I might be a little I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna try to wish this into reality. I'm gonna say it's Bobby and Prissant.
All right, fair enough.
That's my prediction. I think that would be so
Fair
sick.
enough.
And we talked about it in Spark, Ryobi, and Magi, how these are players who are like at a new level of play that they have not been playing at recently. They're all like improving so rapidly. Same thing for Bobby. Bobby's top 100 for the first time. Prissant something for the top 100 for the first time.
Yeah, a lot of people with just something to prove, man, and I think that's what it's all about. I think they fucking show up, put on a good show, get involved in all the summit stuff, and then hopefully kick ass in bracket and get a lot of new fans, get a lot of attention, and we'll see how it all goes down. Wishing them the best of luck.
So, I mean, I agree, of course. Like nothing, whoever gets in, I tip my hat. I think getting into Summit is such a hard thing. It's just like that is a skill upon itself of just being able to weather the storm that is Summit voting and actually make it in. That like I used to get mad when I was like, oh, this person's getting a lot of votes. They're gonna get in. They're gonna be the worst player by far to be in a Summit. Whatever. Summit's it's not about being good. If they were good enough, they would have got invited. After that, you got to market yourself. So anyone who gets in, props. That's all I can say.
Yeah, exactly.
So we are coming up to the end of the episode. Let's do a fun little game. Let's the two of us write a Summit skit about one of these players using random generated occupations. What do you think about that?
Oh, geez. Okay.
I'm going to pick one of these players, if you could.
Okay.
Pick two of the players. Two of any players at Summit.
Two of any of the players at Summit. Okay. IOB.
Okay.
And Hacks.
Ooh, okay. So I'm looking okay, so the random job occupation generator. So Nico is a data processor. That's fun. That works really well with skits. And Hacks is a forklift driver. And let's see where they are. Where in the world are they? They let's see. They live in looking up a random location generator. I'm getting lots of oceans and lots of Antarctica. Okay, so let's see. They live in looks like this is Western China. Okay, so let's write a skit about Nico as a data processor, Hacks as a forklift driver in Western China. Go ahead. You're the Summit employee.
Oh, Jesus. Man. In Western China?
I have no idea where this is. Let me scroll out. I'm sorry.
No, I mean I know
this is okay.
That's where
I'm sorry. This is smack dab middle China.
Oh, the middle of China. Okay.
We're in the I'm not going to pronounce any words.
The middle
I don't think I would gain anything from pronouncing anything. I only have something to lose. So they're smack dab in the middle of China.
And they're who's the data processor? And
that's Nico. That's
forklift driver?
Forklift driver. Oh, well, we all know Hacks is the forklift driver.
Man, so Hacks, unfortunately, the hand problems have come back.
Okay.
There's really no hope for the melee. And his lifestyle in New York City is just it's kind of getting to him. He just like feels like he can't progress, and he decides to just change everything up. Man, he's gonna go live in China. He's gonna start watching like a lot of Mandarin movies and just learn the language and kind of get on the ground floor of a very like industrial company and just become a forklift driver. And years after this, Aziz is mostly fluent in Chinese at this point. Um, and he's been a forklift driver for many years. It's like, his hands are still capable of like basic motions like that. It's just like more things that require more dexterity can be difficult or painful. Nico becomes the data processor from the plant, keeping all the like servers up to date and stuff.
Okay, so he's not in China. He's still
through,
in
like,
New York.
Yeah, he's abroad, and they begin to reconnect through the server that Nico manages somehow, with realizing that through like this online company database that oh my god, Hax is in China, and Nico sends daily updates about how he has become a top 10 melee player in his free time, to Hax's bewilderment and anger, and I think that's about all I got.
And we pan away. The final shot of Hax gets off the forklift, and it zooms into the forklift, the panel, the operation panel. How he drives it around, and it's a box. It's just a bunch
it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's just a box.
And he's
Lovely.
driving around on a forklifted box. Well,
a touching story.
I cannot wait to see this. I assume this will be feature length.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to see this feature length skit at Summit 9.
Yeah, we'll premiere after the tournament is over.
It'll be well, it's a Netflix deal, right?
Oh yeah, right. So we'll just link to the Netflix after it's over,
The stream will just have like the it'll say like go to Netflix and then click on this. It'll just be like the directions to go to the video.
Divert all the people away from our.
Oh, whatever. You guys got a Netflix deal for this fake scenario. Well, yeah, in this real scenario, we're wrapping up the episode. That's what's happened in this real scenario right here. People, if they want to follow your content, they can follow you over at Aiden_Calvin. Is that correct? Is that your Twitter?
No underscore, no space.
No underscore, Calvin, no space. That's crazy.
I'm nuts, dude.
No underscore, no space, no cap. I hear that's what your slogan is.
No cap.
That's me. I'm no cap because I am not a Capricorn.
Wow. Wow.
Hey, you know what? You can steal that for Summit.
Hold on. If you don't mind me incorporating. Yeah.
Hax says that at some point on his forklift in Mandarin.
No cap in Mandarin.
I wonder what no cap in Mandarin is. Hey, if any of our 60
what equivalent slang term?
I'd love to hear what no cap in Mandarin is. Maybe that's Summit merch. Maybe it says it's Mandarin and it says in parentheses it says no cap.
Perfect. You've planned the next line of what we will do.
Yeah, what can I say? With a fashion genius like me, it comes right off the top of the dome.
Just comes out easily.
Yeah, $1 million ideas are just leaking out of this head constantly. What are you gonna do? And speaking of money, if you wanted to if you have some money burning a hole in your pocket, you don't know what to do with it. Of course, you could buy some votes for Smash Summit. You can go over to Smash GG and buy some cool merch in the compendium. Unfortunately, the Mandarin no cap shirt will
not be on sale. That won't be available.
You'll have to wait for the Mandarin no cap shirt, but you can find some other cool designs. And if you still got some money in your little tiny hands of yours and you want to give it to someone Melee related, you could do so. Patreon.com/Melee Stats. Support us with the podcast. You can support the daily tweets. When's Melee? Who knows what else might come out? Aiden, is there anything else that you got to plug for yourself, or are we just going to be plugging the big one, Smash Summit 9?
Man, please tune in to Smash Summit 9. I'm sure it'll be a great event.
And where can I watch that?
Anyone. at twitch.tv/BTS And if you're also looking for more tournaments, feel free to follow twitter.com/endgame_TV for more of the events I organize in my own time.
It sounds amazing. And I really, like, I know I said this earlier, but I just really want to make sure that the point gets across. I really do appreciate you coming onto the show. I know you guys are very busy. You yourself, we talked about how you were so involved with Saving Mr. Lombardi and now Summit, of course. I cannot, like, stress just how much this means that you're able to fit me into your busy schedule.
Absolutely. I always love talking to you, Wheat.
That's what I'm here for. All right, we're coming up to the end of the episode, and I just want to thank all of the listeners. Like I said on the last episode, I really do apologize that we kind of took a little bit of time off, but we're back. You guys got 2 episodes this week, and it'll never happen again. Don't expect any more weeks of 2 episodes, but I really, just can't wait to talk to you guys next week because Melee. Because of that clanging sound. That's why I want to.
Sorry, I just kicked a can off my desk on accident. Or not kicked, but knocked over a Red Bull can.
Hey, are you guys sponsored by Red Bull? Are you able to say that?
Look.
Whoa. We might have to edit that out. Aiden, I think you're being let go by BTS.
It's fine. It's fine to drink Red Bull at an individual level. Mm-hmm. I purchased it at a gas station because I was very thirsty and out of energy.
Well, I think we're out of energy for the show. Oh my god!
Sorry. I was like trying to pick.
You're just wading through a sea of Red Bull cans in your office, just trying to get to your door.
Anyway, yeah, thank you very much for having me on, and I'm sure we'll speak together sometime soon.
I am sure. I'm so sure of it. Well, it's been a really great episode, and thank you so much for just being on. Thank you to the listeners, and that's basically going to be on it. But I'll speak to you listeners next week, and we'll have some juicy things to talk about. We'll be talking about one of the most cool events to happen each year. We'll be talking about Summit. So for Melee Stats, I am Gimme Dat Wheat. Thank you guys so much, and I'll be talking to you guys later.